Performed and produced by Yuya.
Enlightenment and transformation. Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadows of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie wait in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should neither aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment. Female is your transformation. Child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness so it may enlighten you. Man, bring your light boldly into the darkness so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very clear.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands, and if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on the new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create same spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. See, the problem is when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call in, we'll be like, you going to church? And I'm like, where have y'all been at?
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore, the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? We doing it's a good day for an exorcism.
347-945-7680. Call in and let's build.
Peace everyone. Welcome to Chief Speaks. I am one of your co-hosts, Kim, and let's see. I have a bit of an echo, so let me see if I can work that out. But welcome to Chief Speaks. Again, I'm one of your hosts, or co-hosts, Kim. And I guess I'll go ahead and get started with, let's see, hang on just a second. Let's see if I can be heard. Give me just a minute. I think I can be heard. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the recap from all of the shows last strong. And it was a strong, I was going to say week, but it was a strong. So on Monday, we started out with Sister Felicia Assan-ANU and Damon Rawls, and she spoke on the power of faith and trust. So she was continuing with the medicine cards. And the card that came up was the porcupine. Hang on just a second. I have an echo. Okay, so she came up with the porcupine medicine card. And so the porcupine spoke to innocence, or having a childlike innocence when approaching business situations. So that echo is still there. Okay. Hang on. Okay, so back to the porcupine. So she and Damon spoke on the having the tenaciousness and kind of this innocence when coming into or dealing with your business ideas. So sometimes when we get in our business, if we have an idea, we kind of let our fear maybe stop us from developing certain ideas. Okay, hang on just a second. This echo is too much. Let me change the setting real quick. I'm sorry. Okay, let's see if that helps. I don't think it did. Okay, let me go ahead and continue. On Monday, on Wednesday, I continued with meditation and spoke on some of the problems or pitfalls you have when we're just starting to learn to meditate. And so one of the things that I spoke on was how a lot of times when you first start meditating, a lot of people tell you to completely let your mind blank. And they think that is meditation when actually that's the hardest thing to do. You can't let your mind go blank, and that's not the actual goal. So what you do is observe your thoughts, and so you'll find them. Okay. They'll start to come and go. So the goal, like I said, the goal is not to let your mind go blank, but to observe the thoughts, so that you can look at your life and the choices that you made, kind of like in this objective view. On Thursday, Chief came with a message about ethos, pathos, and logos, actually. And so actually it turned into a conversation about thanks taking. And I like the show because he spoke on how our ethos, how we shouldn't stray away from our ethos. No matter what's going on, and how you can't allow someone to do that to you. And this was a really good show for me because of course this holiday or whatever just passed for some, and I find it very rude that some people when you tell them that you don't celebrate certain things, they still try to impose it on you. And so it's like the person that doesn't participate in what the masses do is always the one that has to take the high road. They don't realize how rude and intrusive they're being on you. But it's almost like we never do it to other people. Like I don't press my family or friends to celebrate the things that I celebrate. But everyone always pushes it on you. So that show was kind of that's what I took from it, and I really enjoyed that show because people can be really rude. And one of the examples he used in the show was he said that you know, if he were Asian or something, and you know, they say, oh, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Most of the time your response would just be, oh, okay, well, what do you celebrate? Or you know, it's very polite. But if you're melanated and you don't participate in certain celebrations, you know, immediately you're attacked. So that's what Thursday. That's what I took from Thursday's show, and I did enjoy that show. And then on Friday, Foundational Friday, we continued the conversation of those pathos and logos. And so we went a little bit deeper into the understanding of ethos. And she spoke on the Ethiopians, as well as the Iliad, and we talked about a little bit mythology. So he tied all that in together. So if you missed any of the shows last strong, you can always go to Enlightenment and Transformation TV on our YouTube channel. And like I said, if you like the videos, subscribe, share them, make a comment. And all of the shows are there. So another thing I wanted to add is if you're looking for a starting place with ANU Nation, always start there with all of the archive shows. So you'll get kind of an idea of what we're about. So make sure you check out our YouTube channel, Enlightenment Transformation TV. That's where you can find all of the shows that we have for the strong. And also we have some other channels as well. Orisha Yoruba is one. H Yuya Assan-ANU is another. And so you'll find some more of the older blog talk shows there as well. Okay. Let's see. Any other announcements? If you'd like to sign up for the classes, you can go to seduhouse.com and sign up there. Also, all of our monthly webinars are also listed on that site as well, so you can register for the monthly webinars. Our hub site is anunation.org, and this is where you can go to sign up for the newsletters, so that you can kind of keep up with everything that's going on. Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica, so you can get all of your spiritual supplies as well as any books and DVDs that we offer on that site. So with that said, I will check in and see if Chief is there. Are you there?
If not, then maybe I can be heard now.
Okay. I can hear you now.
All right, cool. So, as always, welcome everyone to Chief Speaks on Enlightenment and Transformation. As always, I want to welcome all of you who are tuning in from the archives. You know, I always like to shout out those who I know will come in later from that archive, and those of you who are listening live right now. I see we have a good amount of people on our phone lines, and just always remember that we are broadcasting on high frequency radio as well as Enlightenment and Transformation. So you can get us in different places, and we're also broadcasting on YouTube right now simultaneously. So, you know, peace to everyone. Peace to everyone who's tuned in, everyone who's listening and has taken the time to this Sunday to build with us. And you know, I also want to let everyone know that if you want to call in, you can call in at 347-945-7680, and all you have to do is hit the number 1. Of course, for our high frequency people, you already know the number 424-222-5250. Same drill though, just hit the number 1 and you can speak to us. And I know you all must be tired of me saying that every strong. But just always remember that every time we do a segment, that there are new people who tune in. You know, pretty much every single strong. You know, we get somebody new or a bunch of new people. So stuff that may seem like old hat to you, for it's needed information for others. So just so you understand, the whole little instruction things is not filler because we don't know what to say. It's just because every strong we get emails asking us, how do I participate in the show? I wanted to say something, but I didn't know how to, you know, participate, or where do I go to sign up for classes? Where do I go for readings? Where do I go for products? This is every single strong we get those emails. So, you know, that's a good thing. That's actually a good thing. That means new people are coming into the information. And that's what we want. You know, we don't necessarily just want to keep preaching to each other. That's boring. You know, there's nothing cool about that. You know, we don't want to just keep reaffirming. I mean, you need that at some point, but to consistently and constantly just reaffirm what you already said that you're supposed to be doing, that gets a little boring. So anyway, I wanted to give a quick insight, and I saw that we already had some hands up, and I'm going to get to you all. So, you know, if you have a question, you can put your hand up now, and I'll get to you right after I share the insight. But that way I can see who's asking what, where everybody's at, basically. All right. So anyway, one of the things I was Sister Kim did in her recap of what we were dealing with this strong, from Masterminds Monday to Anu Asafo to Thunderground Thursday to Foundational Friday. You know, we all kind of came with similar theme, and of course one of the things that I was dealing with was character, culture, and genius, all pretty much being the same thing. Your character, your culture, or your ethos, excuse me, and your genius. And then we explored the word a little bit. We had some fun with the word and explored where it falls in different spaces and in different areas of language. And, you know, one of the things that had me kind of thinking a little bit too, that I said, you know, I think I'm going to reinforce, because those of us especially who may be a little older, and those of you who may be a little older, you may know, like you may have children, and in having children, a lot of times one of the things that we place great care and concern with our children is who we surround them with, or what we surround them with, especially those of us who have come into some degree of awareness. One of your greatest concerns when you have children is who they're going to be around. Some of us make very drastic decisions based on just that one reality. Like, we won't send our children to public schools, or we won't we may dress them differently, we may name them differently, we may feed them differently, all because we want to sculpt a peer group that we feel is more conducive to what we expect from our children, you know, what we expect from that which we create from our own progeny. So based on that, you know, and I know you probably wonder how it's related, but it's related. So we look to create a certain ethos or a certain character even within the environment and the surroundings of our children, of our youth. And one of the things that I was thinking about with that, and I said, you know, well, it is true, because you do know, for the most part, whoever your children is around, that's who they're going to start acting like, no matter what you do at home. You know, that's why sometimes it can be very disheartening when you're working with youth, and, you know, you're teaching and you're giving them the culture, and you know that they're going home to a home. We'll call it a home, quote unquote. We're using that term loosely, but they're going home to an environment that doesn't reflect the highest ideas that maybe they've expressed in the presence of a more healthier bonding experience. You know, so you may be doing a rites of passage, or you may be teaching about culture, or teaching about spirituality, or doing a ritual with them. It could be any type of program. And then when they go home, you know, either that's going to be completely dismantled, discredited, or they're going to have to disavow some of that to a degree just in order to fit in. I mean, you find a lot of times those who are the conscious ones of their family, they become the proverbial outcast. And you would think it should be different. It should be the one who doesn't act right. You know, you would think that that would be the outcast. That would be the one that we say, yeah, stay away from your cousin so-and-so. He likes to steal, you know, whatever. Or your niece so-and-so, you know, she's a liar. But a lot of times it's stay away from this one because, you know, they're a beguiler, because they talk that truth information and it starts to sound real good to you. Well, maybe because it's true. That's why. You know, so we understand that even within our own blood families, that our associations for our children have a great impact and effect on how those children will turn out. And the thing about it is that sometimes we neglect our children, in that we don't take proper accounting for when that is no longer a factor. So your child will let me say become 18, 19, and will say, okay, well, now they can make their own decisions. It doesn't matter who they're around because I raised them right and they know the right thing to do. And that's hardly ever the case. Hardly ever. I mean, even you all listening right now, if you all knew the right thing to do, you wouldn't be listening to me. There'd be no reason. You know everything I'm getting ready to say before I say it. Now, some of you act like that. You know, I'll be talking. It's like, yeah, I was thinking that. Well, I knew you were going to say that. No, you didn't. You didn't know anything. If you did, we wouldn't be talking. You'd be out there prophesying or out there forecasting stock predictions, because you know everything before it's getting ready to happen. You'd be at the horse track making some money. So we start to understand something, hopefully, that whole idea of the peer pressure and the value and the quality of the peer group doesn't necessarily end, you know, when your teens are over. But in fact, it's something that we have to be mindfully vigilant about as we get older. Even as 30, 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds, we have to be sensitive to the type of people and individuals that we place ourselves around, because they can have the same impact on us. One of the things I used to always say, I still do, if I hang around with 9 losers, I'm going to be the 10th. You know, and I used to always have to tell people that based on like my willingness to cut people. You gotta go. Well, we can't talk anymore. You know, and of course, when inventions like email and text and IM came out, it made it even easier. It's like, wow, you could really distance. You know, back in the days, it was like, you know, you didn't send an IM to see if someone was around. You went and knocked on their door. You know, so I'd got to sit there and ignore my doorbell and stuff. Like now, it's just send me a text. No. I don't even reply. You know, so yeah, if I hang around with 9 chumps, I'm going to be the 10th chump. So I always understood, and still understand to this day, that I have to put myself and place myself in an environment and treat myself with the same sensitivity that I would a child in terms of my peer group, and put myself into an environment with people who are better than I am. And there are people out there better than you. You know, that's sometimes a challenge, and why we end up treating people so cruelly in life, because we have this idea that we're better than everybody else. You know, there are some people that you are, and there's some people that you're not. And those who you're not better than are the ones who are going to make you better, because eventually, like any peer group, you're going to begin to behave like your peers. You know, if you make $45,000 a year and you surround yourself with people who make between $150,000 and $300,000 a year, and you spend enough time around them and they don't oust you from the group, you know, for not being as high of a economic earner as they are, chances are you're going to move to become as high as economic earner as they are. You see, because eventually you will become and behave like your peer group. And it doesn't end. You know, sometimes when we get older, especially when we come into consciousness, we look at it like it's almost cute that we have friends who are doing things that are damaging to themselves. We say, yeah, that's just how he is. He's crazy. That's just how she is. You know, she's wild. You can't tell her nothing. And there's a sense of silent and quiet satisfaction that we have sometimes in that regards, because we know that I'm not doing that. And they reflect all the things that I've grown beyond. And of course, they're not beyond me. You know, I've seen this so often with women or females who keep males around them who have intimate relationships with other men or other males. And you can almost see the quiet satisfaction on their face. You know, some females where it's like, yeah, you could never be a woman. You're going to sit here and study me and look at how I laugh and how I eat and how I walk, but you could never be this. And I've seen it in the reverse. I've seen it on the basketball court with females trying to play the man role. And men are like, yeah, you could never be this. And it's like a silent ego boost. It's sad and sick. You know, you shouldn't perceive people that way, but, you know, people can be very cruel sometimes. You know, so it's the same thing when we're dealing with just our overall and general peer group. And sometimes we do have to make total and absolute cuts. So that way we have no choice but to bring in better energy. And hopefully we won't reproduce what we did previously. You know, and it reminds me, I was thinking about the show I did, if any of you remember, The Black Art of War. And I was speaking about the military strategist, or the general, and in Sun Tzu's Art of War, who, if anybody remembers, I won't tell the whole story because you can always just go listen to that show. But basically, he had to fight an army, and it was a seemingly losing battle. And he told the other generals, like in the army, he was like, yo, we're going to go eat breakfast tomorrow. And they're laughing at him like, you'll be dead tomorrow. You know, not saying it to his face. And what he did was he backed his troops up to the sea. So they had no option but to move forward and fight. They couldn't retreat. Failure was not an option. And of course, as you can imagine, the story went, they won, right? So they knew that we can't have energy. I'm using now, you know, speaking in allegory, but we couldn't have energy or options around us that gave us a back door to anything less than what we objected towards to be our goal and our aim. So we have to remove any option. There was also an individual by the name of Fernando Cortez. You know, he was one of the European pirates, Spanish. Well, they called him an explorer. And when they upped the value, they call him a conquistador. He was a pirate, you know, but you know they got to clean it up. But in the early 1500s, he was the one who actually colonized, or more so invaded and slaughtered the people who many of you know who are the Aztecs, and mainly because he wanted the Aztec treasure. Long story about the Aztec treasure. Basically, there was a lot of people who tried to get this treasure because the Aztec treasure was like innumerable. And you had all these different generals and these different mercenaries who kept trying to get at this treasure, and nobody could defeat the Aztecs. Like nobody could get in and get all this gold and these, you know, these jewels and everything. So what he did with his troops, he would rile them up by telling them what their life would look like after they got this treasure. They'd say, you know, he'd say, hey, when we get this, your children are going to have, you know, treasure beyond number. You'll be people of great note. You can move up in society, and boom, 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 boom. He's going through everything, you know, and just getting everyone to envision and imagine what life will be like what's coming next for you, right? And with that, when it finally came time to fight them, he rallies up the troops again, and they're ready for their next pep talk, for him to say, yo, when we get this money, it's gonna be on and popping, basically. We're gonna be popping bottles and getting winches and stealing land. Like, we not having to steal land, really, I guess I should say. But what he does is he gathers the troops together and he says, sink the boats. Now, if you study this, because you're gonna think I'm lying, most of the reports say that he said burn the boats, but if you study the history, he actually didn't say burn the boats. He sunk he sunk his fleet, and he only left one ship, and that was the ship that was going to go back and report his victory. He sent that ship before they even started fighting, because he said, and they were like, how will we get back home? He said, we'll use the Aztecs boats to get back home. So it's like, again, defeat is not an option. I'm removing any opportunities for us to be or do anything other than what is reflected as those who conquest, those who win. I'm removing all other things out of my periphery, you see. And again, this is when we study ethos, because you might say, well, he bigging up a Spanish conquistador. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of times when I say things like that, when I say statements and I say, well, I hope you don't say this, I hope you don't say that. People who say things like that, I don't put myself around. I don't. So just to give you an example, I don't put myself around people that dumb. So like when I share this experience and share this little jolt of history to illuminate a point and to make an example, if I'm around somebody who's like, yeah, but why are you bigging up a Spanish colonialist, man? They came in and they killed the Aztec. That's somebody who gets cut, like they get cut. As they're talking, I'm going through the contacts in my phone and deleting their name. So just to give you an example, if I have to always backtrack and explain real basic, and rudimentary things, then that's someone I don't want around me. Okay. And I'm just giving you that as an example of, because you may have an experience like that. You may say things all the time, or you may be constantly around people who are looking at your plate of food and pointing into, what is that? It's all green. Yeah, well, everything on your plate is all brown. At least this reflects nature. That's just all brown, like a plate of mud and sand. And then I eventually say, you know what? I don't like eating at my desk anymore at work. I'm gonna go outside to eat, because I'm tired of people poking their little nasty fingers all in my food and breathing their coffee breath in my face. So sometimes you have to make those hard decisions where you put your back to the water, or you figure out what ships in your life need to be sunk. What people or individuals or situations do I need to sink and get out of my space, so that living vicariously through them, being like them, doing like them is never an option for me to have again in my life. It's never an option, or never a space for me to have opportunity to be that way. So I got to sink this. And you may look out into the sea of your own contextual and your own familial environment, and you may start to see people as ships and say, okay, Auntie, I don't know, Janine, poof, sunk. Uncle Rayford, poof, sunk. This job I hate, poof, sunk. My children who refuse to be conscious, poof, sunk. My best friend who, is 40 years old or 50 years old and still gets into street fights, poof, sunk. You get the point what I'm saying. You may have to look on your bookshelf. Maybe some books up there, maybe some old scriptures and stuff, from a former religion that you always feel like, well, when things really get hard, I pray to everybody, just in case. You might have to take some of them books, poof, drop them in the book drop of your local library and donate them. You may have to sink them. and say, you know what, I'm going to put my back to the water. I'm going to sink my ships, and whatever is going to get me back out of whatever decisions got me into this situation, it's going to be wiser decisions that's going to get me out of. But those wiser decisions are going to come from the place where I want to be. So if I'm trying to get into, let's say if you're trying to move into the neighborhood Uppittyville, and you realize, okay, I'm currently on Skid Rowville. I got to remove all of my paperwork, all of the things that reflect the culture of Skid Rowville, and whether it's toilet paper, you know, or whether it's soap, water, whatever I get is coming from Uppittyville, and I am not going to accept anything other than that, because that's where I'm going to be. Let's just say if that's your vision, or if that's your dream, you see. And because one of the things that you realize is that the wisdom and the amenities that you receive from the place that you want to be is going to also be imbued with the energy that you want to be. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for instance, you live in a low-end part of town and you hate where you live, let's just say. And you want to, again, move to the high-end part of town. Start shopping in the high-end part of town. Like, get your groceries from the high-end part of town. Don't eat food from the low-end part of town. Because you know why? The people who deliver food to the low-end part of town, they know that I'm delivering food to a people with a certain mentality who are expecting, just like animals. I broke that down for you guys before, where we spoke about the contextual environment, or adaptation, the show on adaptation. You can always go look that one up. Where the animal forms, the animals always expect to live in whatever environment they're currently in for the rest of their lives. That's an animal. A divine energy is all, or really we will say a human, which is just a little bit above, because you're not all humans. Don't fall for that one. But one who moves beyond the animal form understands adaptation and change of environment and things like that, and moving to where my energy is best and my energy is strongest. You see, but the animal always expects to be somewhere. So when you're eating food in an animalistic environment, you got to understand that the energy that is put into not only the preparation of that food, but the delivery of that food is the energy that's given to animals who expect it to always live here, to always be here, to never have a changing condition. And you just swallowing it up, without realize now you are what you eat. So now you find yourself always having difficult leaving your situation, whether it be your relationship or your job, or just bad friendships, you know, that just are no good for you, and you know they're no good for you. So start to get things from a place, you know, whether if you have a gym membership, right? Find the location that's in a better place where people don't act like that. You know, find the supermarket, the other, and you may pay an extra $1 or $2, you know. But go into places where the energy is high and you're treated as someone who is not an animal, but someone who is constantly moving and evolving. You can't move and evolve if your back is not to the water and you still leave a bunch of options for yourself. Can't evolve that way. And that's when we begin to look at, again, ethos, which we spoke about, of course, Thursday and Friday. We start to look at our own character, our own culture, and our genius, and what character, what ethos, what culture are we developing, are we cultivating? Are we developing and cultivating a culture of excuses and options? Or are we seeing victory as the only option? There's a lot of times, like when I used to, I don't so much anymore, but when I used to listen to like a lot of, I don't want to say talk radio, but just people talk, you know, panels and stuff. Yeah, panels, we'll call it that, conscious panels, right? I went through my little phase of that, and it ended very quickly because I'm not big on a whole lot of talking, believe it or not, even though I'm talking right now. And one of the prevalent energies that kind of started to get to me after a while was there was only really ever two sides of the conscious or the cultural or the communal discussion. It was, it's not our fault, and the other side was, it is our fault. So one side was they doing this, they doing that, they doing that, they're going to need to do this. And then the other side was, come on, you can't, blame our condition solely on us. That was it. That was the only duality. And I'm prepared to embrace both concepts, but then also embrace the reality that now I have a responsibility. My responsibility has to be a conglomerate of my qualifications and my knowledge and my projection. What it is that I really think I can do, and what it is that I already know how to do. Where and how can I start right now in the moment? But still looking for someone to apologize or looking for someone to pity me or to pity myself. That's not gonna. I understand. I know who created the situation, but ultimately I know this. It was a series of bad decisions. Bad decisions that got our people, my people, where we are today. Just like when the Aztecs came, once you saw them sinking those ships, when the Spanish conquistadors, quote unquote, came, once you saw them ships being sunk, somebody should say, you know what? We should probably just start killing them now, because they looking like they about to do something real serious. Instead of waiting and feeling confident because no one's been able to penetrate us, we might need to just go berserk on them now while they're getting ready, while they're drinking their coffee, getting ready to come in. Series of bad decisions leads us to where we are. So where do we get our wiser decisions? Typically outside of our peer group. We got to reach. You have to strive and reach and acquire wisdom. You got to look for wisdom. You ain't got it. You ain't got it. I guarantee you. Because if you did have it, again, you wouldn't be listening to me. You'd be out there just sitting on a corner or something telling everybody their future. No one knows everything that's getting ready to happen next. But when you start to put together a conglomerate of people who can help you in your life, and they may be helping you unknowingly, they may not even know that they're a part of this conglomerate. You may have different people you go to who give you different type of information or different type of guidance. Then you can start putting together a more wiser projection for what you should do. But if you have unwise people in your cipher, in your peer group, you will continue to be an unwise person. You can't get around it. So that's the insight I wanted to share this Sunday. And we're going to take some calls. I see we got some people on the air. Again, I want to give you all the number again. You can obviously, the high frequency people, you already know. I see some people over there. Peace to you all again, and peace to everyone in Enlightenment Transformation, and especially those who are just now tuning in, of course. And the calling number is 347-945-7680. And all you have to do is hit the number 1. And again, I know we already have some people on the air. I see you. All right. And I'm going to bring you in. But again, 347-945-7680. Just hit the number 1. And I'm always looking forward to testimonials. Questions are cool too. But, share your experience as well. Because that wisdom that you share helps to elevate everybody else. Keep that in mind. All right. So we're going to take a very brief break, and then we'll come back. When I come back, I'm going to take some of these calls. All right.
DULUSE.com/store. There you will find our product and service offerings that encourage your spiritual growth and development, including our online classes. Chief Yuya teaches classes on spiritual growth, personal development, and indigenous spirituality. The classes are absolutely amazing and are offered online so you can access them from any location across the globe. Our new spiritual training is designed so that you can go at your own pace. You can register at any time and enjoy the support of our online learning community. Our new spiritual training Phase 1 is currently available and is about ministry to self. So in addition to learning the foundations of indigenous spirituality, this class will provide you with tools and guidance on how you can empower and heal yourself. For more information and for a complete list of topics, please visit us at www.saduluhouse.com/store. The ANU store also carries all of our ANU publishing titles, including Chief Yuya's latest work entitled Shrine and Altar, and his bestseller, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. This work offers some powerful gems and guidance on how to develop or enhance your spiritual practice, so be sure to get your copy today at www.saduluhouse.com. Chief Yuya also performs spiritual readings and consultations via telephone and in person. For more information about how to schedule a spiritual consultation with Chief Yuya, please visit him at www.saduluhouse.com.
Okay, welcome back to Chief Speaks, and we're looking at the calls here. The first call we have is from the 323 area code. 323. Are you there?
I'm on mute.
Good dawning. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, peace. How are you?
Hi. I'm fine. How are you guys?
Going.
Good.
Okay. That's a delay. Okay. I was the one that called 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And the one that, when I said my everything was falling apart.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I remember.
I was just calling back, and I've changed my attitude. I think I was just going through one of those times that it feels like everything is just falling. So I've changed my attitude about it, and I'm trying, I'm going through life, and I'm not thinking of it, it's all falling apart, and I've assessed that I still have, I do have some place to live, I have food. I've taken my inventory.
Okay.
And so, and I'm just taking it, one day at a time. And whatever's not happening, if it's not happening, it's okay. I'm just going to, take it one day at a time, and I'm still trying to move forward.
Okay.
Into what? What are you moving forward into?
Yeah.
Now that is not still unclear, but moving forward into my goal is to really become a better me. And, and to do what I have to do, of course, to live. But it's becoming a better me. Becoming who I really am, who I truly am.
Okay. I completely understand what you're saying when you feel like everything's falling apart. And that's mainly because, as women, we're emotional, so we feel it. And so sometimes that feeling can feel so heavy or so overwhelming that it's even hard for us to just function sometimes. But one of the things that I don't think you should do, because you were saying you're just going to take it like one day at a time, you can't just wait for it to disappear. So you still have to take some action. You may have to tackle, one thing at a time, but that's usually like the second thing that we do as women is like we just kind of wait for the feeling to pass, or we're just like, okay, let me just take a step back and just not do anything. And that's not the answer either. We still have to take action. So even when you say, you just want to be a better you, we really have to define, well, what does that mean? That's really too vague. And I think a lot of times, and when we get into spirituality and we're doing rituals, or if we ask for rituals to be done for us, that's the thing we don't do. We can't pinpoint anything specifically. And so one of the things I've learned in doing in spirituality is you have to be very specific about what it is you want or what it is you're trying to do. So saying something like, I just want to be a better me, is not specific enough. You may have to write it down, or, like I spoke of last song about meditation. Sometimes you just have to be quiet and see what comes to you. Meditate on it a little bit, but you've got to, you still have to take action. You can't just sit back and wait for everything to pass, because that's not working it out. And, like I said, just be very specific in what you mean by saying being a better you. Like, how is that going to change your situation? Because, if I say, like, I'm in debt, so many thousands of dollars, I can't just sit there and say, well, I'm just going to try to be a better me. I have to take some very specific steps and figure out, how am I going to get rid of this? How am I going to eliminate this? Because that's not my problems aren't a feeling. They're real. So I can't just wait for it to dissipate. You know what I mean? So I think we have to be very specific about what you mean when you say be a better me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm here. Okay. Thank you for the call, sis. I know you want to go reflect on
that. No problem.
All right. Peace. Sometimes we have to just, like she said, taking one day at a time. I know, sis, she's still there. Take one piece of advice at a time. Absorb that. Soak that in. Being specific. Don't make excuses for yourself. Like, well, no. What I meant was, just be honest. Yeah, I got to pay attention to my language. Take one piece of advice at a time. All right. We're going to go to the next call. 347 area code. You're on Chief Speaks.
Good morning, ANU family.
Good morning. Good morning, sister.
Yes.
How you doing?
How you? I'm doing very well.
Good.
I'm calling for a testimonial.
All right, beautiful.
And it's related to the insight that you were giving today. I know you remember I called a few months ago concerning my own family and what I should do with them. And you told me to put in place some hard protocols. And I did that. And as a result, I haven't heard from them again. And I feel like that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me on so many levels, because, like you said, it's my environment. Who am I keeping around myself? And that was for the purpose of putting better people around my own children. What kind of energies I want around them. And that was so helpful. And besides that, also, your free stuff that you have online has changed my life as well, especially the rituals concerning the same topic with my mother. You know, it was very hard for me. I'm speaking right now, and it sounds like, you know, I just cut them off, but it's been a very hard decision and a very hard emotional couple of months. And in one ritual that I did, where you provide online, it's the Yemoya Bath, I wanted to get myself more organized, have more structure. So I decided to call on Yemoya. And I did the bath, and what she gave me was totally different. What she gave me was insights. She like hugged me. I went in the bath, I went in the water, and I felt like she hugged me, and she told me that she never has abandoned me. She told me that you know, because I've always had this abandonment issues. My mother left me when I was very small, and it was very hard as a child. And I've always cried out, you know, why am I so alone when I was a baby and when I was a young child? And she finally responded back. She told me, she showed me all the faces of all the mothers that I've ever had. And all the women that's taken care of me in my whole life. And she told me, I've never abandoned you. I've always been there. And that was such a healing process. And that's something that you give free. And I feel like people should just do these things. Just give it a shot. You don't know what's going to happen in your spirit. You don't know why your spirit is leading you to these courses, to the information. And I opened myself up to these new experiences because honestly, I've never pictured myself doing rituals or even, you know, in so profound such a subject. And I just let myself be open to the new information, and it's been glorious. And I can't thank you guys enough. I really can't. And I just wanted to share that experience with people so that they too can just give it a shot. And you don't even have to pay, you know, for a lot of the stuff. And yeah, that's all I wanted to share. And thank you so much.
Well, thank you for that, Michelle. I was thinking about you this dawning, actually. I was about to reach out to you. So thanks for calling in, and thanks for sharing that testimony.
Give thanks.
All right. You have a great day.
You too.
You too. Peace. Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what she was saying about some of the things that are offered. A lot of times, you know, we get, like you said earlier, Chief, that we get a lot of emails about where to start and what to do. And there are so many free resources online that you offer, you know, that are just right there. You just have to, you know, go through the information. There, like I said, you know, many times there are over 400 shows. There are tons of free rituals on, you know, that you've done in the shows and that you've given out on Symbolism.com. Yeah. So a lot of times, you know, I don't know what it is. It's like maybe we just don't think it through enough, or we're really not ready to take action, that we don't look for it. But it's there. The help is there. You know.
I think sometimes too people don't realize that ANU is a movement and a ministry. So they don't imagine. I don't think, you know, and that could be my fault. Maybe I don't share enough about me, but I really don't want you all to know that much about me in particular, because I don't know you. So, you know, I'm not one of those people who feels completely safe on the internet, but I think sometimes people don't realize that as a ministry, you're going to serve the people, whether they can support you or not. It just all depends on the level of service. You know, I can service at a greater level if the community's supporting more, but there's always going to be some level of service, even if it's a small thing, you know. And I know for many people, like, even these shows have become their school in a sense, you know, and it could be because the funds are not there to join our new spiritual training, even though I priced it very cheaply. But, you know, we all going through different things, you know, or maybe you want to allocate your funds to other things like fast food and sneakers. I don't know. But the thing is, regardless of your stance and how you're going to be, it's a ministry. So we're still going to give you something. You know, you're gonna get something, because this ministry is about awakening the genius in indigenous people. You know, and bringing indigenous wisdom and traditions and norms and deep thought and mores to people who want to be connected with the tradition, people who want to be connected to the knowledge. And you know, so I think sometimes people may not realize what's really going on here. You know, it's not, I'm definitely not trying to be a celebrity, you know, or a YouTube figure, or whatever else people are doing, because I don't even know. You guys obviously know, those of you who follow me on social media, you know how whack my social media presence is. I mean, I have the Twitter account, and I know a lot of you guys follow me on Twitter and stuff, and Instagram, and you know, I put up something like once every 4 months, and I know it's bad, and I keep telling myself, you know, get better with that. I mean, I'll put up the show announcements and stuff, because I feel like, well, that's where I'm actually giving all the content. But me, like, taking a picture of myself standing in front of the Schomburg or something, or eating a veggie wrap, I just don't see the relevance in that. And that could just be, maybe I'm out of touch with things. Maybe that is the new cool conscious. I don't know. For me, it's corny. I don't twit that much, because I don't want to tell you what I'm doing every 5 minutes. You know, it's none of your business. What's your business is what I'm giving. And you know, and that's my most intimate times. That's where I really try to show more of the purity of what I am, you know. But a picture doesn't really give you that much, in my opinion, or a little 140 character blurb. So I think a lot of times, and that's what Sister Michelle was kind of just sharing, really, in essence, that she's being ministered to. So she gets it. This is a ministry, you know, more than anything else. It's a ministry. So, you know, come and get served. You know, it's here. And whether there's 3 people listening or there's 300 people listening, well, heck, I mean, that's pretty accurate. In the beginning, there were like 3 people listening, and I knew 2 of them, you know. So, and then now, you know, an average, you know, live, you may have about 300 people, you know, and it's only going up from there. So, you know, 200 to 300, sometimes less, sometimes more, but it's in the hundreds usually. And the message is just as potent as it was before, because this is a ministry that is going to have a butterfly effect. And I want you all, I'm going to do a show on that. I was thinking about it this dawning. I need to break down the butterfly effect. Because a lot of times you guys are not aware, not all of you, so I'm not condemning everyone, but some of you are not aware of the reverberations that the smallest things that you do have on the universe and have in the world. I spoke about this in one of the shows. I don't remember which one, but I remember saying that one of the reasons that, you know, you keep praying for world peace and there is no world peace because you don't have inner peace. So you're reverberating that vibration back out into the world, that same level of confusion and deficit and you know, and disruption and mental disorder. You're projecting that out. So like the butterfly effect, just long and short, is basically like this. This theory came out in the early 60s, and I think his name's Dr. Oren, but I'll break it down. But anyway, so basically he says this. When you're dealing with physics, the idea that when a butterfly flaps their wings on one part of the world and sends out a particle vibration, or just sends out even a vibration or a movement of wind, a wind current, that wind current continues to project itself out. It doesn't stop. You know, it's inertia. So it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and then it becomes bigger, in fact. And to eventually, on the other side of the world, it becomes a tornado. Okay, so the butterfly effect is just speaking about how even the small things that we do, they actually, we can say they matter, or we can play on that and say the small things we do create a material reality. They affect matter. the smallest vibrations that you send out. So even like what Michelle did just now with the whole, like, listen, man, you can't be around my child acting like that. Nah, or treating me like this. Like, I'm not going to, because one of the most powerful things that you can do for a child is to let that child see you loved. One of the most powerful things that you can do to a child is let that child see you neglected and unloved. Either way you want with it. But it's one of the most powerful things that you can do. That's why it is powerful as a woman when you have an affectionate man. You got an affectionate man and the children around, like, don't slap his hand away. Let the children see that. Like, yeah, he can't get enough of me. And vice versa. Let them see that their father is loved. People move out into the world in a much more balanced state when they know that their parents are loved and taken care of. A lot of times parents who aren't loved and taken care of, they use that guilt trip for the rest of that child's life. They'll pull them into the madness of their own relationship. Me and your mother, we didn't get along, and when I met her, nobody wants to hear about that. That's your problem. Come on. And parents, they will bring and pull their children into their own confusion because they may have ran out of friends who want to hear that crap. They bring it around the poker table, like, come on, man, we've been hearing that for 30 years. Nobody wants to hear it. So they look over in the corner, you know what? All right, my son will listen to it. Hey, man, let me tell you how I met your mama. They go through that whole thing. So the butterfly effect is real. And like those small things she did, it's going to create a ripple. Like she said, it's almost like, they haven't spoken to me. Well, now you've created a new spiritual paradigm for your line. And the madness that they introduce to you won't be introduced to your children. You see? So sometimes it's the smallest things that you can never imagine create such a humongous effect on the world. Humongous effect on the world, But anyway, we're going to take our next call. I'll get into that later when I break down the butterfly theory. I think you guys will really enjoy that one. Those of you who are into physics, but even just laws of attraction and the law of rhythm is present in that, But we'll get deeper into it. All right. 205 area code. 205, you're on Chief Speaks.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes. Okay. First off, I just really want to thank you guys. You guys have been really a part of my spiritual growth. I listen to you daily. I've even done the preliminary spiritual training, which has brought me a long ways. I'm calling because I was listening to the show a couple of weeks ago in response to the first caller today and how her life was falling apart. And I was in kind of a similar rut. And I live in Alabama. I've been here for 4 years from San Francisco. So I'm going through a major, major cultural shock, and it's just not getting any better, but I still live here. Anyway, I was introduced into this conscious lifestyle about 1.5 years ago through a guy I was dating, and he's from the East Coast. And it was just really easy to drop the traditional teachings that I've been following for the last 18 years. It just was it never fit with me. So it was just easy to embrace what he brought into my life. But anyway, to make a long story short, I won't take up too much time. About a month ago, he just decided he didn't want to date anymore and so forth. So it really bummed me out. In the past, I would have fell apart and just oh, why? What about me? But what transpired listening to you guys, especially Sister Kim, when you had the response about the transient emotions and how people are come in there, we're all moving transient. Might not be saying it right, but that's the way I took it. And then it just clicked that in that preliminary training, especially the part of SU, that I really had a physical SU in my life. He was my gate opener. And he wasn't supposed to go any further with me. That's exactly where it was supposed to be. He couldn't go any further. As I transcend and keep learning and growing, that was as far as it was supposed to go. So I just really wanted to say thank you, because I didn't go into that slump. I moved on. I moved ahead. Not saying that I don't get sad, but that was like an eye awakening for me. Oh, he was that shoe. Okay. So let me move on. And that's pretty much what I wanted to say. I couldn't wait to call today to say that.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your support. And, I just wanted to, I think that's really wonderful that you came to that conclusion, because a lot of times, like I said, as women, we hold so much emotionally. And sometimes we don't realize, like I was saying, that you were speaking about the meditation piece, a lot of this stuff is transient. And some of our, we put too much into our emotions, a lot of times, and we just can't move on or can't get over stuff. So, thank you for that testimony.
Thank you.
Oh,
all right.
Enjoy your day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. We have another call from 504.
Hello?
504. Greetings.
Hi, greetings and good dawning to you all.
Good morning.
Good dawning.
It's my first time calling, and I've been listening to your show for about a month. And I'm calling to ask a question about a dream I recently had.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Well, I had this dream a few days ago, and I was a piece of fruit in the dream, and in front of me was an owl, and the owl turned its head 180 degrees toward me, and it told me that the owl is the godmother of the right fruit, and it hooted at me, and that's when I woke up and recorded the dream.
You said the owl said, what was the phrase again? I didn't get the phrase.
The owl is the godmother of the ripe fruit.
Oh, the olive is the godmother of the ripe fruit. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what's it mean?
Well, I'm coming to get an understanding of what it means. I basically think it has to do with, going through a period of transformation. I mean, that's where I feel like I am now.
How did you piece that together with the godmother the ripe fruit is the godmother of the ripe fruit? Who again was the godmother? What was the phrase?
The owl.
The owl is the godmother of the ripe fruit. How did you piece that together?
Yeah.
What's that have to do with transformation?
Well, I Google, pretty much what the owl mean when it comes to you in your dreams. And, I got a piece on transformation, and I do feel like I'm in the process of transforming.
You're always in the process of transforming. Why have a dream about it?
That's what I was trying to figure out, anything particular, I recently started your class, so I'm coming in more to, who I am and what my purpose is here. So,
skip all of that, though.
Maybe that has something to do with it.
No.
Okay.
Don't do any of the thinking that has something to do with it and the maybe. Keep those phrases out when you're dream interpreting, because it's just gonna mess everything up. You have certain symbols that came, and what you want to do is immediately first of all, immediately you want to look at how you're feeling, or I don't want to say look at how you're feeling, but feel how you're feeling. Make a note of it. That's the most important thing, because you might have woke up and been afraid, you might have woke up and been happy, whatever that first emotion is the most important one when you're interpreting dreams. And then you want to take each symbol of the dream and make it before you Google, because Google ain't going nowhere for a while. It'll be there. You first want to make a determination as to what those symbols mean to you. That's the first thing, because all you're reading on Google is what somebody thinks it represents in your psychology. And you can best and believe that it's not based on an African psychology. You can believe that. Okay. So the owl may mean something different to you. Ripe fruit may mean something different to you, and so forth and so on. So you want to start with what it means to you. That's the most important place. That's why I just asked you when you gave the dream, I said, what does it mean? You're more qualified to tell me because you're the one who had it. Okay, so you want to break down the components first. So when you think of an owl, what do you think of? What's the first thought that comes to mind?
Knowledge and wisdom.
Why? Why do you think of knowledge and wisdom? Because Google told you.
Because recently, for the past couple of years, I've been, watching a lot of videos on consciousness and, the Egyptic things, and I do remember at one point, and, the Illuminati thing, they always had the owl in the movies. Well, I think it was a tactic to scare you off, because I came into the understanding that the owl does represent knowledge, 360 degrees of knowledge, and it's a wise, creature and everything like that.
So if an owl came and landed on top of your car, you would think that wisdom is coming into your life? Or like, would you go embrace the owl? Would you hug it and say, thank you, wisdom, for coming to me?
No.
Why not? You don't like wisdom and knowledge?
Oh, I love wisdom. Yeah, but, an owl coming and land on my car, it might be kind of frightening for me.
So that's your first reaction and thought when you think of an owl? Fright.
Yeah.
You didn't say that. You started talking to me about Illuminati and Google and so fair. So it's not the 300, really 180 degrees. You see, it's not the 180 degrees of knowledge and wisdom, and it's not none of that you read on, the Illuminati message board. It's fear. That's the thing you write down when you had a dream.
Okay.
When you think about fruit, what do you think about? Don't tell me what Google says. You tell me what you think immediately.
No, I won't think. When I think about fruit, I think about a life-giving nutrient.
Okay. I don't think you think all them words that quick, but okay. Well, I will let the judges let you have it.
I do, because when I'm eating fruit, I say my little, it's life-giving nutrients and minerals to my body. When I pick up a piece of fruit, and
every time
put it in my body. So when I think,
oh
just
man,
about every time. Not
that's too much work.
Sometimes I just consume without,
Yeah, that's better, because being conscious shouldn't be that much work. So, what do you think about ripe fruit? What's ripe fruit to you?
A fruit that is ready to be eaten.
Okay, so fruit is actually qualified to be eaten. Okay, cool. You been feeling old lately?
Have I been feeling whole?
Old, O-L-D. You don't take that long to think about it now. Either you've been feeling young or you've been feeling old.
The phone's breaking up.
Okay, you've been feeling old lately. It's a question. Have you been feeling old?
I've been feeling young.
You're going to say no. Okay. So I'm going to give you what I see. But what I see accounts for about maybe 10% of what really happened in that dream. Because it didn't happen inside of my psyche.
Okay.
So whenever you see ripe fruit, you know that something typically, usually, not all the time, because I'm going to give you the fear for the owl. I'm going to let you have that fear. Okay. Now, when I see, me personally, when I see a owl, I see something. I think of something different. I think of something that is imposing. I always envision. I seen an owl come through a fireplace once in a place that I was, and it came down the chute into the house. And so my image of I'm gonna put you on mute for a second because it sounds like you got some cut up stuff going. It's a little noisy, but stay there. I'm just muting you so the sound isn't all janky. But so for me, when I see an owl, I think I go back to that moment when an owl came into the place I was at and spread its wings, and I was like, man, this thing is humongous. I didn't realize they were as big as they were. So that would be my immediate association. So was I fearful? Not really. I mean, I more was like, I want to learn more about this owl. And I've had a lot of experiences with owls, like especially when I'm in the woods and I'm doing divination or rituals, owls always come next to me. So my association obviously is different than your association. So that's what you want to go with first. So we're going to let you have that association. Now, when I think of ripe fruit, I think of two things. I think of something that is ready to be utilized, like you said, and I also think of something that is close to fermentation. Okay, something that is getting ready to produce something new from it, something that is rotting, something that is to some degree even coming down to the close of what it is supposed to be. A lot of times when you have the idea of something that's ripe, it takes you closer to the idea of fertility, or it takes you closer to the idea of you're getting ready to achieve what it is that you've been working for. I mean, there's nothing worse than like having something rot on the vine. It never gets a chance to ripen like it's supposed to. But when something is allowed to go through a proper process of ripening, then you think, like we said, it was a ripe old age. So a lot of times it takes us to things dealing with age and us now being prepared to do certain things at a certain age. And that's kind of what I was speaking to about Friday, actually, not looking at our older age as a space and time to retire, but really being at that right time of wisdom. Also, a lot of times ripe fruit, it connects you to a sexual vibration. I remember saying that to a young lady once, and I don't know, we were talking about something with what men want or something. She was trying to tell me what men wanted in terms of women. And she was like, you see, like, you all want women that have like breasts like a 16-year-old that just stand up there and this. And I was like, yeah, I wanted that when I was 16. But when you become a man, you realize that when things are ripe, they usually soften and they start to hang. So you take on a different mentality. A young woman's breasts who are up in the air like that, I'm looking at her like she's a child. Not necessarily 16, because 16 you're an adult. But, maybe a little younger than that. You're still a child. You still got hard muscle breasts, So sometimes even the idea of fruit ripening, it speaks to an older age, but it speaks to our sexuality coming to a place of maturation, our sexuality coming to a place of ripening, where we have more assurance and we have a more developmental modality of success at this point in our life. So the ripening fruit would speak to that. So when you say I was fruit, it sounds to me like, I don't know, you didn't specify if you were ripe or not, but it doesn't really matter because you're going to get ripe, obviously, if you weren't. But the owl saying, I'm the godmother or whatever of the ripened fruit. If the owl is wisdom and ripened fruit represents wisdom, then you just got an indication of maybe what your animal totem is. That's how I would look at it. So really, you want to tap into the owl more. That's basically how you work on that one. Just tap into the owl more. And in some places, just to give you a little hint on that too, in some places, in some systems, the owl is correlated with the vulture. So sometimes when you read, because vultures actually cover various species. Vultures are also encapsulate hawks and eagles, and some forms of owls as well are called vultures. So you can also research and understand and study the vulture aspect, and that will help you to understand what that means. And the vulture, I'm gonna get into this more. I'm getting ready to present a book on Oshun, and in that book I cover some sciences about the vulture and how the vulture relates to Oshun. But the vulture is the sanitizer of the world. You know, the vulture eats all of the rotten and decaying things that need to go. You know, and they have different type of stomach acid where they're not affected, you know, by the cholera and the different bacteria that would kill something else. They even have a very efficient way of cleansing themselves. Vultures, when they urinate standing straight up, and the urine drips down their legs. And the acid in the urine actually cleans all the bacteria from their feet that they get when they're walking through different carcasses looking for food. Anyway, so, you know, just connect to that owl energy. Ask those questions. All right. So I just gave you the symbols of it. That's all. But, you know, you go on with it. You can go further. I'm going to take a call from a high frequency side. 501 area code. 501, you're on Chief Speaks.
Peace.
Peace. How you doing?
Peace. I'm good. How are you?
Things are moving okay. Yeah, things are okay.
That's good. I'm getting a little feedback. One moment.
You know, high frequency always gets the feedback. I'm not sure why. And I'm not sure how to fix it. What about now?
Well, I'll make it quick.
Okay.
Yeah, I can still hear it a little bit, but my question is really quick.
Okay. Your phone is breaking up.
Sickness.
There you go. Sickness. There's a sickness.
All right. Is sickness metaphysical or more physical?
So the question is, in case someone didn't hear, is sickness metaphysical or is it more physical? That's your question, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yes. To you, what are metaphysics?
Metaphysics are
okay. Good.
Things that lie underneath the surface.
You took too long. You don't know what metaphysics are. You know it, and I know it. So now I'm going to ask you this question. You know, I'm gonna get you. I'm a teacher, so I can't help it. All right. Well, I could help it, but this is what I do. What is sickness?
Sickness is disease.
What is dis-ease?
Being out of balance.
Okay. I'll take some of that. But why do we have two different words? Why don't we just use one of them?
Because it's the English language. It's a bastard language.
Oh, now you want to get conscious. Oh, you conscious preaching now. Here we go. Now we just going to fault the language. We'll say it in another language then. Go ahead, speak another language. We work something else. What other languages do you speak?
Okay. I don't speak any other language.
Oh, okay. So
I speak Ebonics, so I'm really good at that.
Me too. We've already been speaking some since we've been talking. You think we sounded proper this whole conversation? Well, look at it like this: when you say sickness and you say first of all, you need to go learn what metaphysics are. Don't use words that you don't understand. That's conscious people. They always do that crap. It's annoying. You weren't annoying. I'm just saying. I'm gonna send you out right. All right. Don't do that. Sickness is typically dealing with when you speak about sickness, you're typically dealing about something from a personal perspective. It's a very generic or general term that's personal. So you can say I feel sick, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are sick. Okay, so sickness you may say, when I'm a passenger in a car, I get motion sickness, from all the bouncing around, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have a disease because it's something that you feel. A lot of times people will pursue certain lifestyles based on sickness. based on a mental sickness, based on they perceive themselves being something that they actually aren't. But it doesn't mean that the person is unwell. It means the condition that they feel that they're experiencing. Okay. Now, when you're dealing with disease, diseases can be incurable. Diseases connect themselves more to like an illness, and disease, like you said, is an imbalance. It's when the different elements in your body are not working together. Your earth, your fire, your water, your ether, your metal, they're not, your wind, they're not working together. So that's when you develop what's called dis-ease, or like a discomfort. All right. So as far as metaphysics being a root of that, I'm not even going to give you that. I gave you a lot already. I ain't even going to give you that. You're going to have to go look up the word metaphysics. You calling here using words you don't know. All right. So after you look up the word.
I understand metaphysics.
Really? So let's hear your definition again.
Well, I don't have a definition. I just know what it means.
Wasn't that the definition?
Like, to me, metaphysics.
To you? As soon as you say to me, I already know you don't know what it means. And if it's to you, then you should be able to answer your own question. You don't want to know what it is to me, do you?
I want to know your opinion.
You want to know my opinion on metaphysics?
Well, I want to know what your opinion is on how you think of disease. Do you think it's more physical or metaphysical?
I don't have an opinion on that. I only have knowledge about that, and some wisdom and an understanding, but I don't have an opinion on it.
May I hear your knowledge on it?
No, you're not ready for that. How you gonna hear knowledge on something that the root aspects of your question you haven't even understand what the root is that you even ask? Like, you don't even know what you're asking me right now. Do you realize that? That's like this. I'm gonna show you what you just asked me, so you understand. When people come up to you and they ask you, "Do you believe in God?" No, I give you a better one. Do you believe that Jesus died for your sins? You ever heard that question?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same type of question you're asking me right now. Because then what do? You turn around and say this. What sins? And how do you know that he died for my sins? And how do you know there's even somebody that existed named Jesus? What are you talking about? And they'll say, for the Bible tells me so. And you'll say, well, is that a historical book? Or is that a book of metaphysics and mythology? And then you start realizing that the person asking you this question doesn't even understand the basis of the question. So there's no point in answering it. You know what I'm saying? Now, we're not talking about you. We're talking about Bible thumpers. If you want to throw yourself in there, I wouldn't argue with you. But I'm just saying, you got to understand the basis first. It sounds like you had a debate with somebody and you're trying to get a lifeline from me so you can go back and win the debate. That's what this feels like. Were you debating this with someone? Yeah, I know it.
No, I didn't debate anyone. I didn't. I was trying to.
You're just trying to see for.
Put it together.
You just had a discussion. Was it a fight? Because I'm saying debate to be nice. Did you ever fight with somebody about this?
No, it wasn't a fight. I just know somebody who's been having some issues, and I think it has something to do with their root chakra. I feel like their foundation is being shaken, and they're not admitting that. So now what's happening is that
what's a chakra?
All kind of
What is a chakra? What's a chakra? No, what are you taking so long for? Come on now. What's a chakra? You just used it.
It's an energy point in your body.
An energy point in your body? You mean like your anus? Like that, you mean? Or you mean like your areolus? You mean an energy point like that? Your areoli?
No,
points of concentrated energy in your body.
Yeah, like your nipples. You mean like that?
No, that's not it.
How do you know your nipples are not a chakra? You, by your definition, you just defined my areoli as chakras. I knew there was a reason that I had them. I was always trying to figure out what I had these things for. Nothing comes out of them. You just told me they're chakras.
Well, it could encompass those areas around that particular chakra point.
You're not going to admit it, huh?
Your root chakra.
You're going to keep fighting. You're going to go down with the ship. I appreciate it. You're going to go down fighting. I appreciate this. You're not going to admit that you don't know what a chakra is. You're not going to admit that, are you?
No, I'm not.
Well, check this out. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you how I know you don't know what it is. It's it's chakra, not chakra. It's chakra. That's how I know you don't know what it is. Now go on and tell me the pronunciation doesn't matter because Sanskrit is a bastard language too. Go on and tell me that. So what I'm saying to you is that you end up wasting time trying to dig into deeper stuff if you don't find out the foundations and rudiments of it. You're saying someone has an issue, you think it's a root chakra issue, but you don't even know what a chakra is. So it may not be a root chakra issue, or it may be something that doesn't have to go beyond. This person may have an issue with their colon. They may need a colon cleanse. You got to understand the basics first before you go like to metaphysics. The basics would be the physical. Understand that aspect first. Meta just means greater. Metaphysical is greater physical. You could have said that and shut me up 5 minutes ago. So you got to understand before you get to the greater, you have to understand the lesser. You got to understand the small things, because the small things are what is the butterfly effect again. Those are the things that reverberate out into the bigger things. But you got to have an understanding before you start making these type of diagnoses. You got to have kind of a base understanding of what it is that you're applying and trying to diagnose. So, you know, I was just messing with you, but I am still saying learn the chakras. If you think it's something in that area, because it may not even be that. A lot of times we do have physical issues. The person may have worms. You know, sometimes we have things, somebody may have parasites. And you know, parasites in your body affect your behavior. They may need a parasite cleanse, or they may have worms in their intestines. That also affects the behavior. They may be constipated. That affects your mood. And all of that stuff is magic. It's all magic. Believe it or not. When I first started learning about spiritual baths, right? Most of the baths I learned, which at the time for me was a little annoying, but it was like how to, for psoriasis, I have baths for that. Baths to moisturize the skin. You know, baths when people are unable to process salt properly. I learned a lot of baths like that would just like, but this was a part of my spiritual bath training. And I'm like, I don't want to learn this stuff. I don't care anything about silky skin on myself, at least. Who cares? You know, that's what shea butter is for. I want to learn how to attract wealth, and you know what I'm saying? But all of that stuff is related to, you got to learn them, you know, you got to learn them all. So stop skipping ahead. And if you're going to skip ahead, then at least learn on the way. But you don't know what metaphysics are. You don't know what chakras are. So just leave that out.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you don't want to hear that.
That's what I call you for, to get an education.
That ain't why you called me. You called me to try to come back and say something deep to whoever it is you trying to work with. Listen, your root chakra is blocked, and I'm gonna do a metaphysical operation on you so I can clear you to Saturn, because you're gonna have to learn how to run around the rings of Saturn in one breath. All right. That's what we go. You want to put your conscious costume on and hit your gong and burn some patchouli. And you want to get into it. I know what you were trying to do. We thwarted that. I mean, we ain't having that. You gonna know what you doing. You gonna learn today. All right. That's funny. I just saw that for the other day. For the first time. My timing is impact. I just saw that like 2 days ago, and it wasn't funny. What do y'all see in this guy? I watched it because I was like, I need to understand why everybody likes this guy so much. I forced myself to sit down and watch it, and I didn't laugh once. Not one time. I don't get it. I don't know. But all right. Thank you for the education.
Thank you.
All right. Get on top of it. All right. Peace. Yeah, I know. Y'all probably like, why don't you just answer the sister's question? You see, obviously she trying to help somebody out. You know what I mean? Brother, you real arrogant. No, I did help her. I helped her more than you guys might realize. Because I'm telling you, once you learn the fundamentals, everything else comes a lot quicker and easier. And sometimes you don't have the fundamentals. Like we skip steps. And then nothing later makes sense. And by the time you're done, you realize, man, I got all this stuff. I mean, sometimes you go to people's houses or any book title you bring up, like, yeah, I read that. Like they've read so much, but you're looking at their lives like, your life don't look like somebody who has this much information? Because they skip the basics. You know, that is so common. You know, a lot of times you find that that's common in this country. You know, there's a lot of women I speak to, and I'm not singling out any of you who I know are listening who are my clients and stuff, but a lot of you, like in your mid 40s, want families, you know, and you're very accomplished in society, but that time period that you were supposed to be learning how to be an excellent mate, you were busy learning how to be an excellent battery pack for this society. So now you're 40, 45, and you know, you've gotten settled, you got the house, you got a couple cars, you traveled all over the place, you slept with, you know, some really handsome men and all of that stuff like that, and now you're ready to have a family and it's just not happening, and you can't understand it because you got idiots like Steve Harvey telling you, yeah, the reason you can't because men won't step up to the plate. That's not what it is. It's because you never learned the rudiments that actually just incorporate and develop the primal instincts that draw us together. You skipped over that part in lieu of learning French or something, you know. So I know sometimes they're not as exciting, learning the rudiments. Just like when I had to learn all of those different things for baths and stuff, that wasn't exciting for me. That was the worst part of my entire bath experience, because I mean, I learned, man, like literally maybe like 300 baths, you know. And the way my instructor was at that time, who taught me that, I was dealing more with Paulo at the time. There was no writing anything down. We weren't allowed to write. So whatever bath you learned, as well as the what as he called prayers, the prayers that went along with it, that was all committed to memory, you know. And like I said in the beginning, and obviously because he knew that, no, I'm not going to teach you the deeper stuff. You haven't even earned that. Why am I going to give you a bath to attract this and attract that and attract that? And you have not shown the character for someone who can have that and handle it properly. Because so many people today, they learn 4 or 5 baths to attract money. You learn 4 or 5 baths to attract wealth and for protection. And then what do? You go and market yourself as a freaking witch doctor with your 12 baths, you know. And you don't have anything that goes along with being a doctor. You have no sense of ministry. You have no sense of healing. You have no sense of understanding the psychology of the people that you're working with. You have no sense of even caring. You don't even want to see people do better. You know, and I'm not talking about anybody here, but I'm just saying, I'm speaking about hypothetical situations. I know those of you listening, none of you are like that. I know that. We're going to take a call from 662 area code. 662, you're on Chief Speaks.
Alafia, Chief. How are you?
Alafia Ni, I'm good. Babo Ni, how are you doing?
I'm very well, very well. I called last week, but I had my phone on mute, so and I didn't know.
I think I remember. It was towards the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'd like for you to kind of help me with a dream interpretation.
All right.
If you don't mind.
All right.
Now I've been listening to you for the past couple of months, so I finally got my book together. You said it's a grimoire where I'm keeping my notes.
Good.
I've only written down dreams. I had these like in the last 3 or 4 days.
Okay, that's cool.
In my dream, the first dream, this man that I work for, I'm a nurse and I do private duty for his child sometimes. He's in my dream and it's a white man, so that's weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I woke up and didn't go to work on 7 to 3, which I work 11 to 7, so I don't know why I thought I was going 7 to 3. Anyway, I did a no call, no show, which is something I normally wouldn't do. And I'm tripping about it all day. My son is around some other guy who I never saw his face or realized who he was. And we go along all day long doing stuff around the house. And then the guy that I do the private duty for, he showed up at my house trying to break in with 2 of his sons and another man that I didn't see. And so I went out and I told him, I said, I'm going to call the police because y'all are wrong. So the guy, he just starts walking with me and talking with me, saying he wants me to come back to work, which I do him, on an as-needed basis every now and then when they're short a nurse. And I was like, no, I'm not coming back. And he kept talking, and I was like, no, I stuck to my word. No, I'm not coming back. Anyway, a little white girl came along. I didn't see her face. And she was like, well, you might as well do what he wants because he always gets his way. And I was like, well, I'm not going. So it went on from there. I don't know what happened, but I ended up at work on 3 to 11, and I was laughing and talking with the girls at work about how I thought I was supposed to do 7 to 3. And I woke up, and I did write it down.
I'm glad you did, because that was all over the place. Yeah, I mean, they breaking in your house, and I had to do a different shift, and yeah. You women have the craziest dreams.
I thought that was a little weird.
It was crazy. Crazy. C, capital C. And for you comedics, capital K, Krazy. That was crazy. So you had a dream about somebody breaking into your house. It was, I'm gonna put you on mute for a second because you got this bouncing back sound coming.
Yeah, I got my son in the other room listening.
Oh, that's what it is. Okay. All right. Hold on a second. Let me mute this because I can't. I hate hearing my voice back. I might want to hear that mess. So you had a dream where somebody was breaking into your house. It was basically your boss and his sons was breaking into your house. And when you caught him, he said, hey, I want to bring you back to work. And a bunch of other weird stuff happened in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the less weird stuff. And I'm going to focus on the intrusion. So I'm going to bring you back in for a second. Okay. So focusing on the intrusion, you oh man, it's even worse. You were supposed to go to work and you didn't show up. And when you didn't show up, they came to break into your house. Correct? Your boss.
Right.
Okay. So all that means is that it just means you're obsessing about work. What else do you do besides work as a nurse?
Not very much.
There we go. This is an easy one.
Not very much at all.
So even on your days off, they're still in the middle of your house. And not just in the middle of your house. They're breaking in. They're coming in. And that whole, and I'm working a different shift, that's just like, it's an intrusion even on the schedule that I would like to create for myself. That's all that is. Yeah, that's all that is. Yeah. So, you know, you got to do some other stuff. Where are you at? I don't know 662 area code. I know it's someplace down south.
I'm small town Mississippi.
Oh, you're in Mississippi. Okay. Yeah, well, I don't know too much about Mississippi, so I don't know what it is to do there. Yeah. I mean, they all small, ain't they?
No. Jackson's pretty big, I think. I don't know.
What's happening in Jackson?
I just never...
What they got in Jackson? A Walmart?
Jackson State University.
I don't know about none of that.
They got one of the best marching bands in the country.
A marching band. Well, look at that there.
Oh, no.
And to believe I haven't made my way down there in all this time. And they got one of the best marching bands in the country. You know?
Don't say anything else, please. Don't let them get started on Southern Town.
Sometimes I could just be so ignorant. I didn't get to come down there and see the marching band. What they playing this year? What's there on the report? You Can't Touch This or something? What they playing?
They really good.
They really good, huh? Has anyone ever taken you on a date to go listen to the marching bands? Is that what y'all do when y'all go on dates?
Actually, the churches here get together and they drive down to Jackson to go to.
It's a big event. The tailgate.
They have this competition once a year.
Oh, and then all the bands from around the world, they come and converge in Jackson, Mississippi, to get the trophy for the best marching band.
Yeah.
Did you play in the band?
No, I'm not a band person. My son plays in the band for high school, but
what else is there to do?
A wild child.
Oh, you was a wild child, huh? You was a wild child.
I was a wild.
Lots of hay rides and stuff like that, stealing people's horses and apples out of their orchard.
We don't have in the hay rides, which my son did end up going on one a couple of years ago.
Thank you. I knew you had that.
Oh.
Yeah, I know what happens down.
You're killing me here.
This in my quicker letter I, humpback I.
There's nothing wrong with the Southern upbringing. I'm telling you, it's just a little bit different, but there's nothing wrong with it.
No, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's probably a better upbringing than what we get up here. I would admit that. You know, y'all have a little bit more decency. What'd you say?
I moved so fast. New York, my younger cousins were faster than me, and I was like, no, I can't live here.
Yeah, y'all just move a little too slow for me. You know what I mean? It takes you forever to. And then you know what you guys like to do? You like to stare at people when they walking by your house without saying hi or anything.
No, we do say hi. Now that's
not really. When you're sitting on your porch, everybody feels like. Nah. When you pull up in front of houses down south, everybody got to come out on their porch and watch you come out and take your luggage out of the car. Y'all some looky-loos.
Hey, where y'all from?
And I'd say, hey, what's my license plate say? Don't ask me no dumb questions. Get back up there on your porch, Hezekiah.
But just because New York doesn't mean that's telling where you from. You could be from Albany. You could be from any part of New York.
Well, I guarantee you ain't nobody on no porch. They ever been to any parts of it. Y'all ain't never been nothing above the Mason-Dixon line.
I have been to New York, thank you very much.
Yeah, we chased you up out of here because everything was moving too fast, remember? You remember that?
No, I did not like it. I did not like it, but I had relatives.
Too many buildings, right? There was too many buildings over 2 stories. That's why you didn't like it. I know how y'all down here. When you see the buildings, y'all don't like it.
Look, no, we went to a restaurant and these people was like, y'all keep talking. Where y'all from? I was like, oh my God. But
what you thought you sounded like us?
No, they thought, I don't know, they just got a real kick out of how I was speaking, but I get a kick out of how y'all speak too, so.
Well, we ain't got no accent. That's the difference. The difference is y'all got an accent and we.
Yes, sir.
No, ma'am.
You have an accent.
No, ma'am,
Sir, you do.
No, I don't. I sound like you.
And then The New York accent is almost akin to the Louisiana accent, so I couldn't understand why you couldn't understand the lady.
No, ma'am. That's a big negative. No, ma'am. It's nothing like the Louisiana accent. No. Yeah, that's the Cottonmouth accent. No. But listen, I'm not about repping any place. The bottom, I didn't name any of these states. You know what I mean? So I'm not on some big, we up north and y'all. We all Africans, man. You know what I mean? We just got dropped off and migrated. I'm not into all that. Yeah, I'm repping the. Forget New York, the Earl of York or the Earl of Jersey. I don't care nothing about none of them. I keep it real with you because a lot of times people getting that with me. Oh, y'all from New York. Man, get out of here with that nonsense. You know what I mean? I'm not into any of these fictitious lines that they cut up and said, well, you got to rep this plantation and you got to rep that plantation. No.
Right.
I ain't into none of that. I mean, y'all do talk funny.
I didn't take offense. I don't take offense. I'm learning a lot from you. I hope to continue learning from you and Sister Kim and everybody else with our new nation. I really appreciate the fact that you guys have went through the effort to put this out here for us.
Oh, you more than welcome, sister. And I want you to reconsider your career.
Yeah. I'm sorry?
I want you to reconsider your career. And on a side note, on a serious note, reconsider that career because it's taking up all of your life now. You probably find yourself sometimes on your day off when you go to answer the phone, you answer it like you at work.
I've done that.
Mm-hmm.
I hear bells ringing all the time.
See?
It's
so it's time for you to consider doing something else.
I'm like 50. It's too late to change careers.
How old are you now?
50.
When are you dying? What do you think? Give me a number.
95.
95? Okay, so you are just a little bit over halfway through then. So you actually have a lot of time left to make a change. Hey, Les Brown ain't start speaking till he was in his 40s. And then got to marry Gladys Knight. You see what I'm saying? A lot of people can't say that. So, no, it's never. You got all the wisdom now. You didn't have any wisdom when you was younger. You didn't know what you was doing. You just went to school and went into nursing, and you figured that was it. Now you know there's a whole big world out there now. You know, you in Mississippi and you over here giving me Yoruba greetings. So you done spread. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody down there talking like that. You've expanded. You know. You went all the way down to Jackson to go to the marching band drum off. You know. So yeah, you got to expand. 50. I'm gonna tell you honestly. You know, I get on women when you hear me say that women are old at a certain age. I'll be honest, because everybody ain't gonna remember this anyway. So I'll be able to use it again. Most of the time, I'm talking about people who are dragging their behind. Women who are dragging their behinds at 30, 35, or their late 20s and thinking that they're going to have that youth forever. You know, and women work on a different clock, you know, especially with the health condition that a lot of women in today, when they think they're going to just pop up at 40, 45 and start having children, it's probably not going to happen. So a lot of times, you know, I'll let them know, listen, yeah, you 30, 35, you're old now. Because your numbers work a little bit different. But the truth is, we really don't start aging till about 80, 85. And if you're healthy, if you're sick, if you're 35, 40, people that you went to high school with will look at you and say, is that you? Hey, is that, you know, because you've distorted yourself so much.
99 seconds.
We're going into archives in a minute and a half, everyone. But if you've taken care of yourself, you pretty much look the same until you hit about 80. So you got a lot of time ahead of you to actually make some turnarounds and some changes. You know, you take the guy. Oh man, his last name is Carcelli. I can't remember his first name right now. But he was the head DA when in the O.J. Simpson trial.
60 seconds.
60 seconds, everybody. Then we go on in the archives. But he was the cat who, and I might be pronouncing it wrong, but I know it was like Carcelli, something like that. But he was the guy who was gunning for OJ to lock him up. And as you know how that turned out, you know, Mr. Cochran put the paws on him, you know, gave him a beat down.
Yeah.
And what happened was, he didn't get reelected that next term because basically the city hated him after that. They said, oh, you put this N-word away like you were supposed to, you know. So he lost his position, right? So basically what he had to do after that was that he had to completely reinvent himself. So he actually, one day he was walking by they were building, it's some big,
10 seconds.
10 seconds, everyone. But it's some big arena they have in California. I can't remember the name of it. But he was there when they were building it. They were first putting the iron scaffolding up and everything. And he was a hobby photographer at the time. And he went and started taking pictures. And one of the pictures he took, I think somebody ended up seeing or a magazine something, and they fell in love with it. And he ended up doing like this whole series. The name of the book is called Iron. And he took all of these pictures of the iron workers and the Iron Workers Union while they were building this stadium, and went on to become, he's also done work in Africa, and he's drilled wells and all this stuff, all financed from his photography. So he went on to totally reinvent himself. He went from being a lawyer, a DA, you know, that completely crashing because Johnny Cochran beat him down, losing everything, and then becoming this world famous photographer. And he was already in his 50s, totally reinvented himself. So it's not too late. It's not too late. Don't play around and think that. Like I said Friday, I knew we create until we die. There's no retirement. If you're gonna live to 95, I mean, you got at least a good, if you take care of yourself, I'd say you got at least a good 40, at least a good 40 years of some heavy work on you. Because you see people, you got 90-year-old yoga instructors, you know?
Yeah.
So no, don't sell yourself short like that. Don't let anybody make you think some nonsense like that. You too old to stop giving somebody your best years. You know, you got time, you know. Take what I'm saying very serious. Don't think I'm just saying that because I feel bad that you made that statement, because I don't really care. I got my own issues to think about. I'm telling you something for real. I'm telling you the serious stuff. You got plenty of time, and that dream is saying that you are engrossing too much of your life around somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
All right.
I can see that.
All right. Well, just do something about it.
All right. Thanks, Chief. I've been thinking about some different things, so I guess I'm gonna have to step out there.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the next call will be about how you done stepped out there, and you're gonna tell your success story.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
I understand.
All right. Talk to you later. All right now?
All right. You have.
All right.
All right.
Okay, Suge. See, I talk just like y'all. Y'all ain't doing nothing special. Yeah, I know you're jargon. All right, we're gonna skip around a little bit. We know we got a lot of calls on it. Yeah, I'm not gonna get to everybody, as I don't every strong, but I do my best. But yeah, I just want to make that point again. I'm gonna reiterate it for you, because I know a lot of people who listen are older, which is good and bad. But you know, you got to stop putting these death sentences on yourself and death sentences on your mind. You got to understand, the older you get, the more flexible and fluid your mind should be. Now, I know a lot of times the older we get, we build up more ego, and through the building up of more ego, we become more fixed in our ways, and that's how we usually end up leaving here much quicker than we should. But the truth is, if you really understand how the brain works, you understand actually the older you get, the more your ability to process information and your wisdom, you know, like, or what they like to call it, or neurosciences like to call it, your experiential development. But experiential development is just a big way to say wisdom. It's the same freaking thing, because experiential development is just the experiences that you develop over time. And you know, there's a creativity market that's associated with that. Well, it's the creativity that you're able to apply as it pertains to wisdom. That woman who just called, I bet you if I told her I'm coming down to small town Mississippi and I want to start an ANU church, I bet you she'd be like, well, I'm going to tell you how you do it because I know how the people are here, and you got to go here and you got to serve ribs. You got to have ribs. No ribs, no church. You know, she's going to know exactly through her wisdom how to make something happen there. There's a value to that. And when we get to a certain age, sometimes we don't properly assess that value and we just throw ourselves away. And we end up throwing all that good wisdom away. But when you look at other cultures, that doesn't, the cultures that are dominant and that are ruling the world, they're alpha elders. Notice I said alpha. Their alpha elders are not thrown away. They're revered. And they're put on benches and seats and they stay there until they die. Because they understand that accumulation of experiential development or of wisdom and how valuable it is. All right. So all of you 60s and 70s and 50s and, you know, you still got plenty of time. And like I said, you really don't start aging until you hit 80, 85. So really when you hit 60, this has always been my thing. When you hit 60 is really when you should start moving and grooving. Because what don't you know at 60 based on what it is that you came to do and what it is that you want to do? You're not going to make too many dumb mistakes at 60, you know, unless you're just a dummy. And there are some 60-year-old dummies, but they don't listen to shows like this, so they're not present. But you're not going to make too many huge mistakes. And on top of that, you would have had so many years of seeing or performing all of the mistakes that one could possibly make. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of you who are closing down shop at 45, 50 years old, you don't realize the shop really truly opens at around 60. You know, to be honest, and even by then, if you've had children, they're probably out of the house by then. So now you can go back to focusing on developing the empire, even at a greater rate with greater wisdom. And of course, there's going to be things that's going to be missing. You know, you may be a little bit more forgetful and things like that. But technology is a mother nowadays. With technology, you don't have to remember anything. That's why I tell people always want to make appointments with me. They call, hey, I want an appointment. Don't call me for an appointment. My mind, I'm not going to remember it. Use the online. I use the online app for a reason. It goes to a calendar that I can look at every day. So I don't waste my time with having to remember things that are not important. I let technology remember it for me. The important things like Earth days and stuff like that, I remember all that stuff. You know, so utilize the technology. Technology and nature can coexist together. You know, stop thinking it can't. And your aging is a natural process, is a beautiful process, you know, and you use the different things around you to advance what it is that you want to do. All right, I'm going to take a call from 919 area code. 919, you're on Chief Speaks.
Alafia Hotep, good brother.
Bawo Ni, brother, how you doing?
Oh, man, I am great and feeling well. Regenerated myself and getting ready to do my Yuya ritual as well.
Okay, cool.
And to reiterate what many of the callers will probably want to say to you, are grateful for the fact of what you have done, brought forth, and shown us what we're missing. I'm one of them older people at 57.
All right.
And you taught me a lot. I just wanted to ask the question when you're doing, well, matter of fact, there's one of in the ritual, it doesn't tell you exactly how much milk to use in the regeneration ritual.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering, would that be a cup, a half a cup, or something to that effect?
Use a quart.
As what would be pleasing to me? What would you?
Use a quart.
A quart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to know.
All right. Cool.
All right.
All right, my brother. Give
Thank
thanks.
you, brother.
All right. Happy ritual. All right. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Peace.
Cool. Yeah, I like to hear that. He's putting the work in. Well, that's some of the work. But he's putting some of that work in. You know, that's excellent. And, you know, a lot of times those type of calls come in. People say, hey, put this ritual up. You can say this money. I do that on purpose, just so you know. I like to challenge people sometimes when it comes to ritual. And that I don't think I learned in the shrine. I learned that more, honestly, watching women cook. And especially in the Caribbean, you know, everything is cooked pretty much to taste. You know, they put a little bit on a spoon and dab spill a little bit in their hand, and they lick the palm of their hand to determine if the curry, you know, has enough of this or has enough of that. And I used to watch that, you know, and you know the warlock in me is like, yeah, that's how you do it, you know, because it's got to be that feeling that's included in it, you know. So sometimes, no, I don't put, you know, all of the amounts for the ingredients and stuff like that, because sometimes I want people to, and I could have did that to him just now, but I want him to just to get on his ritual and not have to be thinking about too much. But sometimes I'll just say, well, what do you feel? How much do you think should be in there? If it's a crazy amount, like somebody say, a teaspoon or an eyedropper full of milk, then I might put a little bit more. But, you know, I like you to feel it out and feel how much you may feel. I mean, you may need of each ingredient based on what it is that you want to do. A lot of the work that I personally do, I mean, if you're around me doing spiritual work, you need some goggles and a smock, because a lot of times I use, especially once I ramp up, I use ingredients very liberally, you know, depending on how I'm feeling and depending on who I'm invoking or what I'm invoking, you know. But that's my style of work. I feel I like spiritual work to be messy. That's just me. You know, when I'm done, I want to step back, like, you know, I just made an abstract painting, like, it's, you know, I completely rearranged the landscape. Look at this. There's stuff all over the place, you know, but that's just my thinking. You may not, and like a lot of women I find who do spiritual work, the stuff is really pretty and neat, and, you know, they got measuring cups and that works for them, you know. So you got to go with your style. I like wild, brutal ritual. You know, I will brutalize some sage. You know, I'll take it and put it in my mouth while the coals are hot, spit it back out, and, you know, take the soot from the sage and draw different sacred geometry or draw different pontas, you know, and stuff like that, because I just like to go wild when it comes to that. And everybody will have their own style, you know. So that's why a lot of times I don't give all the specifics. It's not because I left it out mistakenly. I mean, I could, but I don't think most time. But most of the time it's because I want to just see what you're going to come up with. Very similar like when you have a dream and I say, well, what does it mean to you? I want to see what you're going to say. I want you, we got to exercise those parts of your own mind. You know, we got to exercise that in you. All right. Now, I know Sister Kim, you had a comment on that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because we do get a lot of those questions. How much? What time? How many steps? 2 steps? 1 step? Blink my eyes twice or 3 times? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't think that people realize that spiritual work is very intuitive. You know, like you said, you're discovering a lot about yourself as you're going through the steps. And it's not a recipe, you know. So it's not like a step 1, do this, step 2. You know, at one level it is, but it's not so dogmatic. And I think we that's because of our, you know, Western way of thinking. But it's not so cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times I think that's why some of our rituals don't work, because it's like, oh man, I use a teaspoon instead of a half a teaspoon. Right. So like you said, we kind of curse our own work because of where our mind is. and then you're just not in the right frame of mind when you even go into doing the ritual, because you're so focused on the steps, you're not even thinking about what you're actually doing or what the ingredients actually mean or what they actually what's the spiritual significance behind certain ingredients. You're just thinking about how much, and I got to do it at the right time, at the right moment, and that kind of stuff. So anyway, that's all I'm saying.
Good points. Good ad. And I'm going to take one more call. I know we got, I'm not going to be able to get to everyone again. That's just how it is. That's just how it is. I'm not always going to be able to get to everyone, but Gil Garcetti, that was the guy's name. I was speaking about earlier, the DA during the O.J. Simpson trial. His name was Gil Garcetti, and he did that book. I have the Iron book. I said I just I ran to the shelf real quick, but the Iron book, it was basically they were building. I guess in LA, this is a Walt Disney Center. And when they were building the Walt Disney Center, he happened to, again, like I said, walk by. He had his camera on him because he was a hobby photographer, and he took those pictures of the Walt Disney Concert Hall. And like I said, he was a part of that defeat. But also, he served one other term, I remember, but he got kicked out because I think in his second term they went through some other issues, and then people had brought up the Rodney King insurrection, and they were like, man, Rodney King and OJ, like, you bad luck, you gotta go. So that's how he ended up losing his spot, going to another piece. But he was like 58, 59 when he went into like making his hobby something real, when he did that that photo collection, and it was just of the local iron union just putting up the frame, so, and he went on to do a lot of other stuff. He's still a photographer, he's still doing work, and he went, like I said, he drilled a lot of wells in West Africa and stuff like that. So he actually created an NGO, because he also did another book called Water is the Key, or Water is Our Key, something like that, and it was about building cleaner and better water facilities for Africa. Okay, so I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at that. Like, he got beat down by Cochrane, and then he went to Africa and had to drill wells. So you talk about karma. Or maybe that beat down, it knocked some sense into him. And he was like, you know what? Let me I got to make right. So, but my point is, I'm not bigging him up so much. I copped the book just because of the title, Iron. Anything with iron on, I was like, what is this? This looks interesting. And I like looking at iron. It's relaxing. So I ended up copying that book. But like I said, he was like approaching 60 when he made that career change, and one had nothing to do with the other. So, something to think about. It ain't over till it's over, basically, is what I'm saying. All right, I'm going to take another call. I'm just going to have to pick one. Somebody maybe I haven't gotten in a while. I think I haven't gotten this one in a while. We'll see. 905 area code. You're on Chief Speaks.
Hi, greetings, everyone.
Greetings. How you doing?
Can you hear me?
No, we can't hear you. Speak a little louder. Get into the phone.
Okay.
Get more into the phone. Lean in.
I am into the.
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh God, it's been an amusing show. Really, it has.
Oh yeah, I'm glad.
Pardon?
I said I'm glad.
Okay. Something about this came to mind. When I was in the Pentecostal church.
You still are in the Pentecostal church. I don't know why you keep thinking I haven't figured that out. You still go to church.
I don't.
Yeah, right.
But a part of I almost want to say in doctrine was to get the Holy Spirit, and by receiving it, you'd have to speak in tongues,
which was the evidence.
And are you there?
Yeah, I said that was the evidence. The evidence of receiving the Holy Spirit was speaking in tongues.
Right. Now, my question is, Chief, now that spirit that comes forth, that tongue that comes forth, is that the mother tongue that you're gifted with? Yeah, I'll just leave it at that because my question kind of goes a little bit further, but I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So let's start here. What's the mother tongue?
Like your mother tongue of your origin, the land where you're from, right?
Right. Now, remember when you're dealing with speaking in tongues, you got to go back to the book of Acts. You know, in a day when they were filled with the Holy Spirit. I won't say Holy Ghost, but the Holy Spirit, and they began to speak in tongues. Speaking in tongues, a lot of people think it's like this divine language or it's your original language, but really speaking in tongues is just speaking multiple languages at once. Because like they said, they spoke in the tongues of many men. So if you spoke German, Spanish, French, Swahili, you know, Xhosa, you put them all together, it's going to sound like that. He tie my bow tie, I tie my bow tie, you tie my bow tie. You know, so you know, but just like Latin is just he missed the bus, I missed the bus, we missed the bus, she missed the bus. You know what I mean? So it's just speaking many different tongues at once or many different languages at once. It's that influx of, as you would call that unified feel, where you're connected to so many at one time, and it comes through. But I wouldn't necessarily, like some people say, oh, that's the language of the spirit. But I would say that's inaccurate too, because, you know, the book tells you that the spirit communicates in groans and utterances, which is basically saying it doesn't speak, you know. So yeah, that would be my understanding of it. Now, an actual, someone maybe who's really, really studied those languages that come out, because one thing you will find is that when you go to different Pentecostal churches, it kind of sounds like everybody has their own style of speaking in tongues, just like everybody has their own style of shouting. But you do find certain words that keep coming up. Like there's a commonality of words. That could either be because it's an act, or, you know, it could be just like taken out of the book of Acts. It could be that maybe people are tapping into an older or unified language at the same time. What makes you ask the question?
Sometimes you have people.
I want to know why you asked that question. What makes you ask that?
You know what? Like sometimes I find that I spoke in tongues or I speak in tongues, and I find sometimes after my affirmation and when I'm affirming, I have this energy that seems to be rising, and then I feel like I'm about to, you know, spit out this language. And sometimes I do, but then at the same time I'm wondering, well, how is it benefiting me if if I don't know what I'm saying? That's the other thing. I'm not able to understand and correlate the English to what's coming out.
Yeah, because if you understood it, you would defeat it. If you knew that what it was saying, if you knew that, let's say if you knew what it was saying is that you're a beautiful person who everybody loves, what would you do? What would you do?
I would speak it.
Yeah, but how would you feel about what you're speaking?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, then I wouldn't have an issue. You know, basically.
Stop lying. If that was it, you would be saying that's not true because so and so doesn't love me and so and so treats me cruelly. So you would begin to defeat it based on your conscious mind being able to pick it apart.
I think I'm actually maybe back in the days, but I think
by back in the days, do you mean like a couple of strongs ago when you called this show complaining about the same thing? Is that what you mean by back in the days? Because I thought back in the days was like 15 years and better. We only talking about less than 20 days. You was, I got a memory now. Don't try to trick me. Yeah, exactly. You think you so slick.
I'm becoming more insightful, believe it or not. I am.
I believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really, yeah. Yeah, but and then in church too, they'd have people who would be able to translate, supposedly translate.
Yeah, well, that's the only time they're really
the
supposed to
message,
be a
right?
speaking. Yeah, well, the Bible tells you that if someone is speaking in tongues, that there should be a translation, because people coming in from the outside would walk into the temple, and it would seem that the people are just doing foolishness. So whenever there's a speaking of tongues, there should be a translation. You know, so yeah. Or sometimes people translate it themselves. They'll say it, and then they'll say the Spirit is saying this. I still don't really understand the point of all this, though. Like, who cares?
No, I'm just questioning
unless you're still a Christian.
I should. Pardon?
What are you afraid of? You afraid to speak in tongues? You afraid like a spirit's gonna, like, you're gonna invite something into your life that you don't want?
I'm not afraid. No. That's not what it is. I am just because, like I said, it's just this feeling or this rise of energy that just comes to the surface, and sometimes I can't control it, because when I try to speak in the English, the other language comes out. You know what I mean? Like,
So
I
go with
feel
it.
like I don't have the control. Mhm.
Why would you have the control? You don't need the control. You don't know enough to have that much control. Because your control is gonna equate to a disaster. You don't know enough to want to control spirit. You haven't become the master of that. You haven't even mastered your own mind. So why would you want to control a spiritual experience? You can't even control your thoughts. Oh, now you want to start shuffling around dishes and stuff while I'm going. The whole time you were talking, there was no noise. It was quiet. As soon as I get to say something, now we got to start slamming the dishwasher.
Not at all. You know,
Yeah.
That's not right. That's not true.
Yeah, whatever. I know what I just heard.
Taking it in.
So anyway, the point I'm saying is that you shouldn't try to control it. Just go to the abyss with it. You know, sometimes people speak in tongues for all different reasons. It's not always what seems to be a spiritual trigger. I had 2 incidents once that were interesting with that. Years ago, I remember I was driving around the corner and my engine shut off while I was driving. And I lost control of the power steering real quick, and I narrowly swerved, and I just missed a tree. Basically, I ended up skidding and stopping like right on the side of the tree. Like my car even went up on one of the roots, and I had a woman in the car with me, and she started speaking in tongues. Like she was shaking. She was because I guess she thought we was getting ready to die. And she was shaking, and I'm like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And she was like, and then she just started going into tongues right from there. So, there's different triggers. And I had another incident. This was actually recently. I was hiking with a woman, and we were going to do some rituals. And we got to the top of this mountain, and I started doing the affirmations in Yoruba, and I was saying some. And then when I went to Zulu, I started speaking Zulu. She started what looked like what you would see in a Pentecostal church, shouting and speaking in tongues. Neither one of these females ever had an experience like this, and neither one of them came out of the church. So, there's a lot of things sometimes that could be associated with our truer or more divine selves coming to the. All right, you just make too much noise. All right, I'm going to put you on mute. So anyway, mute. So there's a lot of things. She's over packing away children's toys while I'm talking, throwing them in the chest. Like I can't wait. But anyway, so there's a lot of things that may trigger those divine experiences, but they're nothing to be afraid of. Nothing to be afraid of. She's saying she's not afraid, but I know she's afraid. You don't have to be scared of it. There's a lot of things that, that's why you don't want to paint a broad stroke when you're dealing with like Christians in church. It's not all bad. It's not. A lot of times you have more spiritually uplifting and spiritually empowering experiences in that environment than you'll have in environments that are supposed to be spiritual. You definitely, a lot of times, have a lot more camaraderie and more of a sense of community. Sometimes you even have some straight up nation building happening. So there's something that you can pick and learn, but understand that the spirit that you bring into them old dead buildings and those old dead religions is you. So even when you step outside of that living and active spirit is still going to be living and active and working through you. even outside of it. So yeah, you may speak in tongues outside of that environment. No big deal. All right, one last call. 718. You're on Chief Speaks.
Peace, Chief.
Peace, brother. How you doing today?
Pretty good.
Good.
Excellent.
Good. Yeah, what's happening?
I was listening while I was in the kitchen and munching, so.
Oh, okay, I understand. Yeah.
So I was listening to Thursday's show, Friday's show, and then today's show, and then as I remember calling and asking you about what I wanted to do for Thanksgiving, because I really didn't want to participate in the the run of the mill same old thing.
Sure.
So what I did end up doing was I ended up basically beating people to the punch and injecting more of my will into what I wanted that event to be. And it actually turned out a lot better, at least for me.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure everybody who was at my house, they probably said that, they probably didn't experience anything similar on that day for what the usual events would be. So what I basically had everybody do was my wife cooked because she's in culinary school, and but the rules was nothing that you would normally eat on that day.
Okay.
So there was no turkey, no stuffing, no rice. I think one person cooked macaroni and cheese, but I didn't eat it. So there. So like I'm not gonna eat the same thing. And then everybody who came and ate had to present something, and the intention of their presentation had to be either something that was enlightening, that would edify the group, or something that was just that they found interesting.
Right.
And I ended up doing a speech on purpose, and I had to do a ton of research on what the purpose of life was in different religions, and then how it all came back to the individual's purpose. And I think what I did end up finding out was that Ifa is probably more concerned with the individual unique purpose than a lot of other religions, and I ended up finding it out through my own research, which was cool, because I was like, that makes sense. It's making me feel like, all right, well, I'm on the right path, regardless of wherever I could be. I'm on the right path. But my whole purpose in doing that particular speech was the roommate that I was telling you about.
Right. The no cursing
last
rule.
week. Right. But so I noticed like how, the past couple of weeks she's just been off, and like all I'm doing is picking up her energy, picking up her negative vibe. And it's like, it felt like when I was back in church, and whoever the leader of the church was, they were always picking up people's energy. And it would be to the point where you want to leave it alone, but you can't just let it be. You have to deal with it. I've heard you express like similar notions about when people call in,
right?
And just feeling like you have to deal with it. So, and even up to yesterday, I was telling my wife, is like, that's how it's feeling. It's feeling like I really want to leave this alone. Like I really want to just not care. But I'm seeing the root of the issue being that because her life is actually really good. It's just the only issue that she has is finding purpose. So that's what my speech ended up becoming about, and allowing her to know that it's less about and just everybody in that room, but allowing everyone to know that purpose, no matter where you find it, no matter what you do, is less about you and more about what you can do for other people. And that's what I ended up coming to. So it was just it was enlightening, and it was just a different experience. And I just it just brought me back to a place where I was in church and someone was telling me based off of how articulate I was or whatever, I should be a pastor. And I ended up getting in trouble for telling them what I really felt about that. I was like, no, that's not something I would ever do. and I ended up basically getting in trouble. My mom yelled at me. Everybody was like, "Oh, well, that's so rude. You shouldn't have told this person that's not what you wanted to do." And I'm like, "No, that's not what I want to do." And that was my reason. The same reason of I didn't want to pick up people's energy and people's problems and not be able to let that go.
Yeah.
So that's what this whole experience became for me.
Right, right. Yeah, that is the difficult aspect of it. Like you said, having that. I mean, of course, it's more difficult because this is somebody you live with. So, you know, it's not like it's somebody you've seen, you know, once a month. But, you know, you're cohabitating, which is a form of family. Even though you have you know, a sizable home, like you said. But anytime we wrong someone, or at least they feel like we wronged them, you know, there should be that humanity and that compassion where we I'm gonna put you on mute, brother. I'm gonna not to cut the young soldier, but I know the baby, he's holding the baby probably. But yeah, we should feel that. A lot of times you hear people say some real evil things, like, you know, when they get in consciousness, they're like, I'm gonna do what I want to do, and they don't like whatever. And that's not always the coolest approach. You know, like he said, he knew this was gnawing at the person, and, you know, in good conscience, he couldn't just let it sit there and gnaw at someone, whatever the discussion was, whatever. You know, a lot of times, as the more conscious person in the room, you have to take the higher road. You know, and that may mean that you have to initiate the conversations, or you have to understand that you're a representation of your culture. And if you really want people to come into something that you see that actually does work, then you have to represent it and present it in a way where people want to be around it. You know, which is a common thing I find too with, like, you know, speaking about what I was speaking earlier about wisdom and seeking wisdom and making sure your cipher is strong with wise people. You know, a lot of times we're unable to do that because of a very simple thing. And that simple thing is because people actually don't like being around us. And like what he did was he did the Thanksgiving, well, whatever, I don't know what he called it. He might have called it something else. Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving, I don't know. But he did the dinner, and he created a positive event, you know. And sometimes through our consciousness, we're so disgruntled with how society has treated us as being people who had a different kind of awareness, or who were operating with a different kind of frequency, that without realizing it, we become very injurious people in terms of our vocalization. Some of you may call that negative. I don't like to say negative, because negative is good too. Sometimes you need to extract things. But we never have anything good to say about anyone or anything, you know. And you have to realize that when you're trying to bring people into an understanding of things, people are not necessarily attracted to individuals who never have anything positive to say. I mean, I could sit here for 5 hours and talk about how messed up things are. It's not that difficult, because things are pretty messed up. You know, but what you'll find is that you won't, or I won't be surrounded by people who want to draw closer to that. You know, think about, and a lot of us have these with parents. Sometimes you get those manipulative parents where whenever you see them, or it could be an auntie or uncle, they always have this long, drawn out story of how messed up everything is. You know, you'll be saying, you know, hey, how you doing, Uncle Otis, whatever. And they, oh man, my back is acting up. My job, I think they're gonna let me go. My truck is keep misfiring. I think one of the cylinders is misfiring. I'm gonna have to get the whole head done. And you know I ain't got the money for that. You know, and it just every time. But God is good. God is good. As long as I got breath in my body. You know, you got those people like that. And then after a while, it's like, I'm not going by Uncle Otis' house anymore. I don't want to see him. You know, nobody wants to hear all of that. So the same thing begins to happen a lot of times when we're seeking for greater circles of wisdom. People just don't want to be around us. You know, it happens sometimes in our own relationships. Sometimes we forget, especially when we're living with people, that if we're walking around miserable all the time, or, you know, we're in a certain funk, consistently and things like that, what will happen is that those who we consider to be our lovers or whatever we're just less lovable. They won't love us as much anymore. They don't want to be around us, or they want divorces and things like that. And a lot of times that happens because we're no longer happy. We're not happy to be around people. We find nothing in our lives that we can be happy about. So, like, again, this brother, he could have made that dinner an opportunity to speak about all the messed up things and why he's unhappy, why he's an angry black man and he's disgruntled or whatever. But like he said, even with this other individual, she's got a pretty good life. She just needs a little tweaking on the purpose area. So, I'll be honest with you, good feelings and good vibrations are one of the greatest tools of attraction to bring someone into an understanding of something. I've seen people a lot of times who are having trouble with their family, and they want their family to come into the understanding, quote unquote. And but they're like always miserable, So it's like nobody want to hear that. That was a cool thing about old school. We'll go new school. You look at like Kendrick Lamar. One of the reasons that people like him, they say he's I don't consider him to be that conscious, but let's just say he's a conscious rapper. But his music, he also is a rapper. He's good. J. Cole, the same thing. They're good. King Los, another example. These are individuals who actually are really talented. They make music that sounds good, so it makes you happy when you hear it. And then there's a little message in there for you. You got to kind of look at the balance. Of course, old school, we'd have to look at Public Enemy. They had funny videos. Flavor Flav, of course, is incomparable. But the message it hit hard like a freaking RPG missile, So that balance of really just bringing a more better and pleasant vibe is one of your greatest tools for bringing your families and friends into consciousness. I guarantee you. And even your greatest tool for surrounding yourself with wise people. When you're a miserable person and you show no gratefulness about anything and you're constantly vocalizing that, people do not want to be around you. And the same goes for the spiritual order. Spirits don't want to be around you. When they're like, look, man, we busting our behind. Like, picture if I was like that. I just told you a story of, and I got a bunch of them, but that's just one of them, where I almost could have lost my life. I could have slammed, and I was speeding around this corner. I ain't gonna lie. I had a little, I was driving. I remember when I was driving, but it was a stick shift, little sports car I used to drive. And, I got a young lady in the car, so I'm playing, and I was speeding around that corner, and it happened so quick that I could have just slammed right into that tree. I'm pretty sure I didn't have a seatbelt on. I was very young at that age, and seatbelts weren't even that big a deal back in the days. By the way, you weren't getting those $85 tickets, and plus I had a young lady in the car, so I'm definitely not putting a seatbelt on back then at that age. So I would have went flying through the windshield, most likely. But obviously there was a spirit that said, nah, bruh, because on November 29th, 2015, you're going to need to do this show called Chief Speaks and say something to somebody that's going to create a butterfly effect that's going to change the world. So even though you're an idiot for driving this bucket around this corner like it's a freaking Porsche, and no seatbelt on, we're going to look out for you. So if I was an ungrateful person, those spirits around me, they would be offended. Like, come on, man. All the dumb things you've done, and we're sustaining you. All of the crazy rituals that you allowed people to do with you during the initiations and stuff where we could have laid on their heart just to kill you. And no one would have ever known, and we kept you. Be grateful. And that gratitude will attract more spirits, more energy. It's like a flower. Flowers look beautiful. When they're beautiful and happy, what do? You want to get closer to them. You smell them. You want to adore them. And, wow, look at that. Beautiful. When they look funky and droopy, push them out the way. I don't see you. Get out of my face. Your spirit is the same way. But all right, that's been our segment. I've been talking for a very long time, but it's because you guys have inspired me to go a little bit further. And I'm going to ask Sister Kim, do you have anything you want to share with our lovely audience before we jet?
I just want to say thanks for the support and shout out to the South. Our Mississippi caller.
Okay, yeah, shout out to Mississippi. I think we had an Arkansas call as well too.
Yeah, Arkansas too, sure did.
Yeah, all of you people down there with nothing to do, thanks for tuning in. Yeah.
Don't start.
Yeah. So, you know, go on and enjoy the what you're doing next, the buffalo rib fry or the rib, or just no buffalo rib. Buffalo, you can tell I don't eat meat. I don't even know how the things to go together. Buffalo ribs, the buffalo wings.
Buffalo ribs.
I don't know. I don't eat that mess.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But all that stuff y'all like to eat.
Arkansas, Texas.
Oh,
Florida,
please don't
Georgia,
get started. Please.
Louisiana, all the southern states.
Yeah, all of y'all. It's been a pleasure. You know, don't let me keep y'all from any other exciting stuff that you have to do in those states. Let me let you get back to it. All right. So peace, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and be sure to tune in Monday for Masterminds Monday, and look out for the changes. We'll be making some really awesome changes in January. To the show format, and we'll be kind of combining some of the shows together into a more concentrated and intense experience. So I want to give you all the opportunity to just kind of get the heads up on that. So make sure, if you're not subscribed to Enlightenment and Transformation TV on YouTube, that you subscribe. Follow the shows, on Blog Talk Radio. You can click the follow button and stuff like that, and share them and like them, comment, all that other good stuff. And like I said, I do monitor the comments and stuff. Even during the shows, I monitor them in case someone wants to ask a question that way, especially like if you're in a noisy environment or something like that and you can't necessarily call in, or you live in a house where you're not allowed to be conscious and you got to hide it. You can always just type a comment real quick on your phone and no one will know that you're actually conscious. All right. So until such time, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be seeing you. Aquaba.